I'm not sure how many will really joining us today, but we have more than 300 registrations in our system. So we will see later the numbers, and I think many of them they are the from the SMEs in Indonesia and the people who really want to export their commodity as well. Okay, Pak Irfan, we will unmute you soon. Can we unmute Pak Irfan?
Just checking, because if I mute, I cannot unmute Pariza.
Yeah, because the thing is, we are trying to make the presentation enjoyable. So for the participants, we do not allow them to unmute themselves.
I see. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I think for all the speakers, we already put in the position of unmute. But if you are muted, then we will unmute again. No worry about it.
Okay.
So you have a director. You have a director of the event, you know.
Director of the event.
Just like, yeah.
So we have hundreds of people working behind.
Yes.
Okay, so it's already 9 a.m. I think we will start to admit all the participants, and we will start the event shortly. We already have around 28% in the room, and I'm sure there will be more that will come today. Maybe we will wait for a couple of minutes to start. We still have people in the waiting room? Okay, so I think we can start this program today. Everyone, a very good morning to all of the distinguished speakers and participants in Portugal. Bom dia. Selamat sore untuk Ibu dan Bapak yang ada di Indonesia. Good afternoon in Indonesia. Welcome to the webinar Coffee Talk, discussion on coffee opportunities for Portugal and Indonesia. This forum is organized by the Embassy of the Republic of Indonesia in Lisbon. Just a little introduction of your moderator. My name is Reza Hadian Maulana. I am the Economic Officer, the First Secretary of the Embassy. Here in the Economic section, we try to provide information and connection to both businesses in Indonesia and in Portugal, with our end goal is to expect and to develop a tangible and concrete cooperation. And today, we have the honor to have the availability of three wonderful speakers whom are experts in their respective fields. We will be looking forward from them for sharings on Portugal coffee industry, namely the culture, the composition, the major players, as well as the latest trend in the market. And then, on the other hand, we will also get to know more about the development in Indonesia coffee production in order to raise more awareness towards our coffee. Because statistically speaking, we don't have many Indonesian coffee in Portuguese yet. But hopefully the embassy expect that the situation will improve and we can increase the numbers of our coffee in Portugal. Next, I would like to say hello to our participants. Until yesterday night, we recorded quite a great registration number who have registered themselves for this event. And we really appreciate your being here with us today. And we are delighted that this coffee talk has brought people from different backgrounds, from exporters and importers, SMEs, businessmen, individual, universities, association experts, and so on and so forth. We sincerely wish that you will enjoy today's program. So let us get started right away. And we will have the opening for our program today delivered by our Charge d'Affaires of the Embassy, Ms. Ajeng Widianti. So Ms. Ajeng, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Reza. Good morning, panelists. A very good morning for our participants from both from Indonesia and Portugal. As Mr. Moderator mentioned, I would like to also say hello to Ms. Claudia Pimentel, Secretary General of the Associação Industrial and Commercial do Café, Mr. Sergio Pereira Alves from the Sociedade Portuguesa de Inovação, as well as a very good afternoon to Mr. Irfan Helmi from Anamali Coffee and Sustainable Coffee Platform of Indonesia. First of all, allow me to extend our appreciation to all distinguished speakers for your availability to share information and experiences regarding the coffee industry in Portugal and Indonesia. And second of all, I would like to welcome all participants of this webinar who are not only joining us here in Portugal, but also in Indonesia. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm to attend this coffee talk today. Portugal is a country with a long coffee history, as coffee is a part of Portuguese culture. We can find coffee shop almost everywhere here across the country, since I do believe that coffee shop has important place in communities across the country, and espresso being the most common drink in Portugal. Like many other countries, coffee culture is changing from the traditional espresso to the modern specialty coffee. Not to mention the emergence of coffee pods and coffee drips. With the wide range of coffee types, coffee businesses are emerging as well. As one of the world's largest coffee producer and exporters, Indonesia has vast coffee plantations spreading from Aceh to Papua. At this moment, our export is focused in the US, Japan, and EU countries, which are Germany and Italy. Realizing that Portugal and Indonesia shared fondness in coffee, we see an opportunity for Indonesian coffee to expand its market to Portugal, as well as to increase our export volumes. After all, we could find both types of coffee in Indonesia, both Arabica and Robusta varieties. Not to mention, Indonesia is also well known for its specialty coffee, like Kopi Luwak, and specialty coffee with geographical indications such as Kopi Gayo and or Kopi Kintaman. In the last few years, coffee has also become a lifestyle as well in Indonesia. A new urban coffee culture has taken over Jakarta and other major cities in the country. A survey from the Association of Indonesian Coffee Exporters indicates that there has been 36% increase in the coffee consumption among Indonesians from 2010 to 2014. In the context of coffee promotion and diplomacy in Portugal, the embassy has carried out concrete effort to promote Indonesian coffee in so many ways, such as our participation in the Lisbon Coffee Festival last year, serving Indonesian coffee by baristas from Indonesia. We are also honored that earlier this year, our former ambassador, Mr. Ibnu Wajutomo, who is now returning to Jakarta, joined the Confraria do Café, or coffee fraternity in Lisbon, as an honorary member. Although in the midst of COVID pandemic, we are still strongly determined to continue our effort by organizing this webinar on Coffee Talk to continuously promote Indonesian coffee in Portugal. I also noted that we can find ground coffee roasted in Indonesia by the brand of Delta, which you can find also in several Portugal supermarkets, as well as Master Origin Espresso in Indonesia, which comes from northern Sumatra. But I do believe that, and we could increase our export of coffee here in Portugal. Through this coffee talk, I believe that we can learn so much from all speakers on the landscape of coffee industry in Portugal and the opportunity for Indonesian coffee to enter Portugal market. We also look forward to the presentation on Indonesian coffee development and the uniqueness that we can offer to Portugal companies. Lastly, I would like to thank you to the embassy team, especially the economic section, for the initiative in organizing this webinar. I convey, please be well and stay healthy for all participants and distinguished speakers. I thank you.
Very great. Thank you, Ms. Ajeng, for the opening of this program today. And indeed, we have some Indonesian coffee in the supermarket shelves, as you mentioned, from Delta and from Nespresso. And I believe this is quite the indication that actually our coffee is already enjoyed by the Portuguese community, and hopefully we will have more and more Indonesian coffee here. And to listen about the coffee industry in Portugal, please welcome the first speaker, Ms. Claudia Pimentel from AICC, which is Association of Industry and Commerce of Coffee in Portugal. She is the General Secretary of the organization, and she has a great role in promoting the coffee culture, as well as developing the coffee industry in Portugal. Therefore, if we want to know more about the situation in Portugal, we can look no further than her. So with that being said, Ms. Claudia Pimentel, I give you the time and opportunity to deliver the presentation.
Good morning to everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to speak about the Portuguese coffee and the Portuguese culture. I know Indonesia coffee, it's a very good coffee. So we expect you to reach your goals and to increase the coffee business in Portugal. So I have a little presentation about the Portuguese coffee culture and how we work with the coffee. I don't know why okay. So the Portuguese Coffee Roaster Association, named in Portuguese Associação Industrial e Comercial do Café, exists since 1974. It's a non-profit association whose mission is exactly to promote and to the great knowledge and the coffee education, defending the interests of the associated companies. And the main companies we have are roasters that have the coffee as their main business, and other companies that have a business connected with the coffee traders and coffee machine experts. The association is also the representation of the Special Coffee Association in Portugal, who is the responsible for the Baristas Championship. We have already 7 championships, and we had already gone to Indonesia with our baristas to show them your specialty coffees. We have a small organization, but our main events are the Lisbon Coffee Fest, and we have a coffee and health program, which is very important for us. We had a program that has explained firstly into the medical class that coffee has benefits to our health, which is a very important program, because a few years ago, mainly the doctors will tell you to don't drink coffee after a few ages, and if you have some issue, some conditions, health conditions. Nowadays we have science that explain that coffee has benefits, and we share all that information with the doctors, the nurses, and the nutritionists, and we changed the way that coffee was seen by the community of health. And now with that program, we could increase the consumption of coffee in oldest people, and that's a very important goal we achieved. Then we have the annual conference with all the coffee community, which can allow us to have a network in the business and to share goals and ideas. We have communication campaigns, the championship by SCA, and we have the Confraria do Café as spoken before. Last year, the Lisbon Coffee Fest has 49 different brands. It has 90% of the market represented. We have 6,000 people in 3 days. We have many foreigners, and we have 300 coffee kilos just in 3 days, and 23,000 coffee were used in that 3 days. Going to the internal market, we have 80% of the Portuguese population consuming coffee in a daily basis. Generally, the Portuguese prefers espresso, it's small doses of coffee, and we drink 2.5 cups of coffee by day. So we have 4.73 kilos of coffee per person. It's not too much because, as I said before, we use coffee in small doses. We have an espresso, which has 7 grams of coffee, and the North countries generally use 26 grams for coffee because they use American coffee or filtered coffee. Our consumption used to be, and that's an important figure because the pandemic has changed this a lot. We used to be consumers of coffee out of home, and nowadays the consumption out of home is a little bit lower since the restaurants and the coffees are almost closed and people are afraid to go out. But and the coffee business this year will be very lower, but these were the numbers of last year. I'm showing you here the numbers we have in the last 3 years, and as you can see, we have a growth in consumption in all these years, I only show the 3 last years, but this increase has been maintained for the last 10 years. And this year, the consumption at home has risen 20% because of the pandemic. As I said before, the Portuguese prefer espresso, and this is not a spelling error. We use the espresso with an X, not with a S, as the other countries use it. And we have our own recipe. The Portuguese like very much their own coffee. Our coffee is made in a different way than Italian coffee, for example, and other coffees we have, because we have a blend, generally use a blend of Robusta and Arabica coffees. We have a slow roasted coffee, and one of our characteristics is the hazelnut colored cream. And our coffee is dense and persistent, and the cream is persistent. It's a velvet drink which reveals a full body, very well balanced coffee, and is delight for the sense. We have an aromatic complexity, a soft acidity, and a remarkable balance of flavors. And our coffee is different from the other coffees. All the Portuguese, when they travel, they always say they miss our coffee. The first thing that Portuguese do is to have a coffee when they return home. It's a very important way of seeing our coffee is the missing we have. We are not producers of coffee, lack of appropriate weather condition, although we have a small coffee producer in Açores. But it's only a small coffee production, and it's not relevant for our business. We import green coffee, mostly from Vietnam, Brazil, and Uganda. Vietnam is a Robusta country of producer, and we have lots of Robusta in our business coffee. Brazil, mostly Arabica, is coming from there. And nowadays, with the coffee business changing, with the coffee shops and the specialty coffee increasing, we are start to have more Arabica here. So traditional roasting still the same, but the business is changing. Our process of roasting is less intense compared to other roastings used in other countries. Roasting in Portugal focuses on medium to medium dark roast, although the business of specialty coffee prefer light roasting, but the commercial coffee is generally medium to medium dark roast, allowing to the coffee to express its regional flavor associated with each origin. And this particular method of roasting preserves the essence of the coffee, its identity, and that's why we call it the Portuguese coffee. It's less acid, has a strong aroma, body, and a sweetness. And this sensory experience tends to linger in the mouth and creates a powerful consumer memory. We still have the coffee after we drink it. The Portuguese market has many brands, but has not many distributors. The most of the distributors has different coffee brands, and the main companies in the Portuguese market are Nestlé, which has at least 5 brands, Delta, which has 3 different brands, Massimo Zanetti, which has 3 different brands. And we have small coffee business that work only in the out of home, and we have companies who work both the markets, the out of home and the home business. And the restaurants and hotels are a component very important in the market. I've put here 3 brands which are from these companies, but we have a lot of different brands which I would like to share with you. Let me see if I can. Okay, I cannot open here, but I think I have the associated in here. Sorry. Okay, we have different brands of the coffee, and these are a few of the companies and the brands, so you can have an idea of the different brands, although the companies are less companies than we have in brands. Okay, you can visit our website so you can see all the companies, and if you click the logos, you can go directly to the company's websites. Regarding our important numbers of importations, as I told before, we import mostly green coffee, and mostly of the roasters companies buy the coffee through traders or their international departments. Most of the companies don't buy directly to the producers. Coffee shops, although as they use specialty coffees and one variety coffee, they buy directly from the producers, and probably for the small producers of Indonesia, this is an important market that is interested in different coffees, specialty coffees, a few different varieties, coffees with very specific flavors or different kind of coffee. Coffee shops are increasing in Portugal as in the world, and this is a very important channel that I think the Indonesian market should try to rise. Traders are also important, and we have a few traders in Portugal that you can reach. And as you see, the imports of coffee are increasing, although through the years, and the crisis here allows to see that we have a small decrease, but mostly we have growing. I was interesting to see how Indonesia was in our importations of green coffee, and it's not, this data are from 2018, but as you see, Indonesia has a contribution which is important, and really I think you can export more for the Portuguese business. As I told you before, Vietnam, Brazil, and Uganda are the main countries that send coffee to Portugal. And you have here Indonesia, which is in a good position. Here are the companies that usually trade coffee. This is my associates, and I have shared the contacts of them. These two in green are traders that you can reach. Agri Marketplace is a company that is a platform that sells coffee through the internet. It's a new concept of business which is growing and that you can reach. And as I told before, coffee shops, I think they're important for the Indonesia, and I have a list of coffee shops that I can share with the embassy there, and that you can reach also. what are the trends of the market and how can you be there for helping and reaching them. The baristas movement, if you have, and I know you have good baristas in Indonesia, you can do some events with your baristas to show the properties of your coffee. Internet has changed the consumer. They have new requests. A few companies are starting to have their own business in internet that you can ask for a personalized coffee. Premium coffees are rising too, and the market is changing, and the consumer is knowing more about the coffee, and they want to know where the coffee is made, where is producers, how the producer are treated, how the coffee is treated. So coffee is important and people want to know how the coffee is changing, is made, and the history of the product is important. The channels are also changing a little bit. Distribution is the supermarkets, they have their own brands, and it's an important channel of coffee. The Horeca for us is the hotels, restaurants, and cafes. It's a very important business in Portugal. We have many coffees in the streets, which they have commercial coffee, not specialty coffees, but it's an important selling through channel. Brands are starting to have their own stores of coffee, and the office business is increasing also and is changing. And then you have the coffee shops, as I said. Lisbon Coffee Fest is an important way of knowing the market and to present your products. And I hope we have a new Lisbon Coffee Fest in the second part of next year, since this year we have to cancel it. But we have a very important way of showing the coffee business to the Portuguese and allow you to show your products and be present. That's my presentation. Thank you very much. And I hope I can help the Indonesia to increase their business in Portugal. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ms. Claudia, for your very wonderful presentation. We got fast information from the delivery. And also one thing that stuck in my mind, that when you said when the Portuguese travel to another country and then they already miss the Portuguese coffee there. So,
yes.
The first thing they do when they get home is to drink espresso.
Yeah, so, it's true.
It's very interesting. And of course, each country has its own culture, its own taste, and we have to appreciate. And hopefully we can complement the difference based on our own characteristics of coffee. And then before we continue to our next speaker, I would like to inform the participants that we will have the Q&A session after the presentation. And also, you can also type your question, if you have any, in the chat, and we will read them during the Q&A session. Okay, now let's move on to the next speaker. We have Mr. Sergio Pereira Alves from SPI. SPI is a research institute in Portugal, and the institute, they have already plenty of cooperation and collaboration with the embassy, and also they are experts with regard to cooperation with European Union as well as with some Asian countries, including Indonesia. So, Mr. Sergio Pereira, we hope to hear from you more regarding the Portuguese coffee, and then also maybe some of the strategy and then opportunities and challenge for Indonesian coffee to enter a Portugal market. Okay, Mr. Sergio, the floor is yours. Please unmute Mr. Sergio.
Good morning. I think you can hear me now. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I would like to start by thanking to the embassy, to Ms. Yang Widianti, and to Mr. Rieza for the opportunity to collaborate again with the embassy. SPI has a long tradition of working with the embassy and of involvement with the Indonesian market. And so it is a pleasure for us to be again working in the embassy and to be involved in a study on how we can improve the relation between Portugal and Indonesia. And we had the first presentation that gave us an overview of the Portuguese market. And we will try now to dig a little bit deeper into that kind of information regarding how Indonesia can take advantage of Portugal coffee market to improve the exportation from Indonesia to Portugal. So we will be quite happy if we can help to strengthen this relation and to improve the exportation from Indonesia to Portugal. I'm going to share my presentation. I believe I can already. Okay. So I believe you are seeing the presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so this is, as I just mentioned, we have developed a study for the embassy on 5 products. Coffee is one of them. And these products are products that Indonesia is a significant exporter, and that Indonesia could improve the development. I'm sorry, but I'm listening a lot of feedback. For some reason, I cannot. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, because there was a lot of feedback, and this was disturbing here my presentation.
Mr. Sergio, we can hear your voice.
Yeah. The thing is that I have a lot of feedback, so it's I have to take this off. Sorry. Okay. As I was just explaining, this is part of a study of 5 products that we just developed, and we are going to present the coffee, which is the principal theme of this presentation. And as this is the objective of the presentation, we will give you a first market overview. We will try not to strengthen the principal aspects that already were mentioned by AICC. So we will give a market overview, Portuguese coffee market entry information, and recommendations. So this is going to be a brief picture, and it will try to identify some of the relevant topics that could be useful for Indonesian companies to successfully enter into the Portuguese market. First, it's important to understand that coffee beans have been traded since the 17th century and are one of the most important commodities that are traded globally. In fact, only crude oil achieves a higher value of international transactions. The truth is that coffee is the second most traded commodity in the world, and it exceeds almost 16 billion USD were exported globally in 2018. So major production areas are located in Latin America, Asia, and Africa. And as you can see in the below table, the top exporters are Brazil, Vietnam, Colombia, and Indonesia. Who are the top importers? USA, Germany, Italy, and Japan. Together with USA, Europe is one of the biggest importers of coffee. And in Europe, the country that drinks most coffee is Finland, which has a ranking of using 12 kilos of coffee per capita, which is a lot. More than 10 million tons of coffee were consumed from mid-2019 to mid-2020, and this gives us an idea of how big is the market internationally. Regarding the Portuguese market itself, and international trade in the Portuguese market, Ms. Claudia already gave us a first overview of this. I will just pinpoint some aspects that I think were not mentioned. Portugal is not as a producer of coffee. Portugal relies on international markets to cover the internal demand for coffee. As it was mentioned, the production is just residual. We just have one or two small plantations in Portugal. And so we need to import coffee beans, green coffee beans, to roast and then consume in Portugal. So among the different type of coffee beans, Robusta is the most important and preferred variety of coffee. And the roasting process for Portuguese coffee, because as it was mentioned, we have a preference on the type of blend of coffee that we drink. The roasting process mainly occurs in national territory. So we roast our own coffee, and we have a particular blend that we prefer. So this basically gives you an overview of this map here can show you. As you can see, mainly we import from Vietnam, Brazil, and also from Uganda. These are the main three in India in the last place. These are the four main exporters to Portugal, and we also re-export some of the coffee. You can see the unbalance between exporting and importing in the above graphic. We do not export a lot, and these values that I've just mentioned, that you can see here in millions, these do not include the coffee that we export. So we really export some coffee, but not much, and it's coffee that we export mainly to Spain. So as you can see in the graph in the map, 86% of the coffee we export is to Spain, and then to France. But mainly we consume coffee. So that's why we are the 20th largest importer of coffee in the world, but we are only the 36th largest exporter. So I believe that for Indonesian companies, the most interesting thing here is to understand that we really like coffee, and we do not have any type of production that is significant. So it would be very good for us to have a variety and diversity in the offer of coffee to Portuguese consumers. Regarding the relationship between Portugal and Indonesia in trading coffee, the relation is unidirectional. We import coffee from Indonesia. We do not export coffee to Indonesia. And it seems that Indonesian coffee may have a competitive advantage on price to enter the Portuguese market, because from 2015 to 2019, the price of Indonesian coffee traded with Portugal was below the average price of the coffee traded from Portugal, but from Portugal to other countries. In 2019, since 2019, almost 2,000 tons of Indonesian coffee was bought by Portugal to Indonesia. So regarding the Portuguese ranking, Indonesia occupies the 9th position of coffee bean imports. This gives us an overview of how is standing right now the relation between Portugal and Indonesia regarding coffee imports. Regarding the Portuguese coffee market itself, the sector of the coffee market, basically it is, as it was already mentioned previously, it is characterized by the fact that it does not have a lot of companies, and mostly are composed, the sector is composed mostly by SMEs. 82% of the companies employ less than 20 workers, but nevertheless, a few large companies dominate the market. So on one hand, you have international groups. You can see some examples on the right part of the screen. International groups have several brands, like Nestlé, which has Toffee, Cical, and Bondi, or Zanetti, which has Segafredo, Nicole, and Chave d'Ouro. These are international groups that are represented in Portugal, and they are quite strong. And then you have Delta. Delta is the main Portuguese brand and producer of coffee. These companies dominate the market. They are the largest ones. Then you have smaller companies that are mostly regional and mostly for the outside consumption, outside of home consumption. And these brands are not significant. Well, they are important, of course, because they are part of the national tissue of entrepreneurs, but they are not so relevant regarding consumption. Regarding the consumption itself, 80% of the Portuguese population drinks coffee on a daily basis. The Portuguese consumption of coffee is 4.3 kilos per capita. These are 2019 numbers. Most of the Portuguese population consumes coffee out of home. Of course, with the pandemic now, this has changed, but we still love to drink coffee outside. We still love to go to a coffee shop or sit or stand and have a coffee. This is something that is quite part of the Portuguese tradition and habit. It's a little different from other countries where sometimes you just go to have a coffee and sit. We are a little bit more like the Italians, that we just have to like to drink a coffee in a hurry if we need, but because we really need the coffee. We may have it standing and not even sitting for that. Espresso is the most consumed and favorite type of coffee in Portugal, which of course is proper for this type of consumption. And we already have some experience with Indonesia coffee. As you can see below on the slide, you can see that we have already some examples of Indonesia coffee offer in this case, by the biggest national company, which is Delta, that offers coffee from Indonesia. Oops. Regarding the coffee daily frequency of consumption, as I mentioned before, we drink a lot of coffee outside, mainly outside, and we have at least 2 coffees. Basically, almost half of the population drinks 2 coffees, 2 espressos per day, and 22% drink 3 to 5 espressos per day. So basically, you have a vast range of preferences regarding coffee consumption, but it is clear that we drink a lot of coffee. As it was already mentioned, there is a difference in the number of kilos that Portuguese consume, because we mainly drink it as an espresso, which uses less coffee than having a huge coffee bowl as the Americans or other European countries do. In Portugal, 95% of households have a coffee machine. And of these 95%, 70% are coffee capsules. These are the most preferred because they are practical, they're easy to use, and easy to dispose. Of course, this raises issues regarding environment because it's plastic, most of it. And that's the reason why people are more interested now on in seeing offer from producers of coffee capsules that are not so hard on the environment. As I mentioned before, 79% of the coffee is espresso, even at home. And the reason of having a coffee machine, and especially for having a coffee machine with capsules, is that they are very easy to use and very comfortable, because it's practical to have that kind of consumption at home. In 2018, the Portuguese households spent more than 200 million euros on coffee pods and capsules, which is relevant considering the size of Portugal. Regarding coffee brands, this was already mentioned previously in the previous presentation, but just going a little bit further in the information. As I mentioned before, most consumed coffee is out of home, and Delta has a 64% quota of that part of consumption. So quite behind, you can see that Bondi, Cical, and Nicola, which are part of the same group, they all belong to Nestle. They have a smaller percentage of share. And then at the end, you have Lavazza with 4% of the share. Regarding home consumption, it changes a little bit. Delta is still the most preferred brand. But then you have, of course, Nespresso in second place, getting a share of the market. And another very relevant aspect that should be mentioned, and it was already referred in the previous presentation, is that white label brands are already absorbing some part of the share of the market. So this is something that could be interesting for exporters from Indonesia and other countries, because it's a different approach to the market that could be useful to penetrate through the white labeling. Cical and Bondi are the last biggest brands that occupy the home consumption market. And the favorite coffee machines brands are Delta, Nespresso, and Dolce Gusto. These occupy the bigger part of the universe of coffee machines, and the rest would be machines without coffee, without espresso capsules. So a different type of machines. Regarding the market data information, first thing that should be taken into consideration is that Portugal is part of the European Union. So The regulations are the same all over Europe, and any product entering the common European market through Portugal must comply with EU regulations. So it's not a specific regulation for Portugal, but it's also for all other member states. And this means that we will have legal requirements, documents, logistical aspects, and access to market information. Portugal, this is our part of the information that I'm going to provide you. But the most important thing is this is all a unique set of tools of requirements and applications that should be met, and it's the same thing here in Spain or in any other country. Just as a bit of information regarding duties, EU import duties for coffee from Indonesia, because Indonesia benefits from a general scheme of preferences regarding duties. There is a special tariff of 0% regarding imports from Indonesia. This has a cap, but it is far from being reached. So this is not an issue. And the Portuguese internal tax VAT is 33%. This is just information that is useful to have an idea of how in what regards duties on coffee, what is applicable. Regarding specifically legal requirements for coffee import into the EU, any exporter to Europe should have in mind that, of course, anything that is food related and anything that is part of the food sector, quality and requirements that control food quality are very, very important. So it is not with surprise that control of contaminations in foodstuff is part of one of the biggest requirements of the EU for importation of coffee. Also, control of pesticides, residues in plant and animal products intended for human consumption. Health control of genetically modified food and novel food. Health control of foodstuffs of non-animal origin. Traceability, compliance, and responsibility of food and feed. Labeling, clear labeling, and of course, if existing, products from organic production. It is important to understand that as we are speaking about beans to be roasted, of course, as they are going to be roasted, the control is not as relevant as if it would be for live animal or frozen food or whatever. Nevertheless, this kind of information must be provided and must be traceable. If needed, EU officials will have to be able to trace and go all the way to the origin to understand how it was developed, how the coffee was produced, and then what risks are in place and how good and how controlled was the production. Regarding entrance in EU territory, there are a set of documents that must be held. And first is customs import declaration with the identification of information of the import, commercial invoice, freight documents, freight insurance, packing list, customs value declaration if the value of the goods exceed 20,000 euros. And the entry summary declaration may submit it before arrival to entry custom to allow for the EU officials to proceed with the risk analysis in terms of safety and security. Of course, as it was already mentioned, if you are coming to Portugal or any other European country, your best ally would be a trader or an importer. And these agents will be able to help Indonesian companies to tackle all these obstacles, all this information, all these requirements. So in order for you to have a safe landing in Portugal or in any other country of Europe, coming to Europe without just an example of coffee, test coffee and bag, and no information will not be easy to do. So there is a clear procedure that must be met, and of course, having an ally on the European side, it is very, very important. And this next infogram helps to understand all this. If you are considering market entry information, it is very important to understand first, when you come to the European market, you will have either sales agents, traders. We just rounded it for importers here. And you either sell it to them, which is the most common. You could go straight to roasters, to transformation companies that roast the coffee and then create a brand. That is not very common. It's not impossible. It's not common. Traders are the most important channel here. These traders are very, very, very experienced in importing coffee to Europe. So they would be your main ally. And then when we look into the right side of the presentation, we will see that you have the end consumer segment. So either coming through traders and then from traders to roasters, or going directly to roaster, which is not so common. At the end, you will have it will be from the roasters that you will have the access to the whole market. And then because these roasters will be provided supermarkets, specialized shops or web shops, in-home consumption, the HoReCa channel, which means hotels, restaurants, and coffees, and then out of home, of course, coffee shops. This is the streamlined channel of entry in the country, and it is also important to understand that additional requirements may be imposed by the traders, the importers. So, of course, quality management standards may be put in place, may be required, corporate responsibility, sustainable certification, and quality classification. This will depend, of course, in the type of product that the traders are willing to import to the country, and or the type of coffee that the roasters, in this case, want to prepare and to provide to the market. So these are additional requirements that should be considered. Regarding logistical experts, there is no difference regarding international trade in general. So Incoterms are applied. Coffee beans, of course, are mainly transported by sea. So typically, free on board, cost and freight, or cost insurance and freight are terms that are widely used. There is no significant difference from other type of international trading. The same thing applies to payments. Cash against documents, letter of credit, full or partial prepayments. All typical types of payments may be applied to coffee. There is no relevant aspect here that should be considered. And as I mentioned, because entering into Europe and considering all the regulations and all the requirements that are demanded by EU officials, it is very important to understand how to navigate through all these universe of procedures. As I mentioned before, going through traders, going through importers is the best option. Nevertheless, if you want to study a little bit more about each type of regulation, each type of procedure, each type of requirement that the EU officials demand from exporters to Europe, you can go to the market, to the web portal, Access to Markets. It's a EU web portal, and you can identify and pinpoint each type of different requirement that is demanded by EU. Finally, just one or two recommendations considering the current situation in coffee. Nowadays, it's very important to keep up with the new trends. Trends in coffee consumption are changing. They are changing quite fast. We have evolving tastes and preferences. New coffee trends are being initiated as we speak. And so it is important to be adjusted to consumer profiles. Of course, if you are on the side of providing green beans, this is important if you are offering some type of very, very, very high grade coffee or organic coffee or sustainable coffee and so on and so forth. But the most important part is to understand that this is a worry that is on the side of the roasters and on the side of the sellers, and you have to adjust to the requirements. You have to understand that differentiation may be in place, and you have to adapt yourself to the requirements of who is buying your coffee. And of course, product quality is very important. Consumers are getting more and more knowledgeable of types of coffee and the quality of coffee and what should you look at. And so exporters to Europe and to Portugal should consider that the quality of coffee is very important, and the quality of the offer and the differentiation of the coffee is also very important. To this extent, of course, specific certifications may be requested. Traders may require production, social or environmental certifications from producers of coffee, and this can vary. You have below several different types of certifications that are used internationally, and of course, this may increase production costs, but at the end, this could also mean added value for your coffee. Nevertheless, one should have in mind that sometimes, although the coffee was certified, it may be mixed with other coffee, or it can be sold as regular product. So one should clarify which is the purpose, or what is the purpose for the certification requirements and objectives, and then to understand if it's worth going forward with the certifications for the specific market. To finalize, regarding recommendations, it is important to stay updated about rules and regulations on EU imports. Food safety, of course, very important. Rules for coffee imports change rapidly and are becoming more and more strict. So one should be always following change in regulations and rules for import to Europe. And you must be, of course, look into having help to get into the market. So going through government and private institutions to help to obtain assistance, contacting, for instance, the industrial chamber for in commercialization of coffee that just gave the presentation previously, or contacting the help of the Indonesia and Portugal Chamber of Commerce. It is very important if you want to have more information for Portugal market entry. A final note: we love coffee so much that we have different type of coffee drinks that we ask when we go to a coffee house. We may ask for a Bica cafe if you are in the north of south of Portugal. You may request a full coffee, a coffee with milk, a cappuccino, a coffee with some type of alcoholic beverage included, an Americano, which is the big one, a garoto, which is with more milk than coffee. Well, coffee is part of our traditional culture, so we drink a lot of coffee in all these different ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sergio. Very good, and indeed a very interesting take on the Portuguese culture, Portuguese coffee industry. Two things that I would like to highlight. The first thing is when you mentioned that I think around 95% of Portuguese households owns coffee machine in their houses. So this is quite interesting, and I think that's not the case in Indonesia. It's very different. We don't use so many coffee machine at the moment. I don't know what's yet to come, but it's quite interesting. And the second one is you gave many practical information regarding the entry and the opportunities for the Indonesian coffee to enter the EU and especially to enter Portugal. So I hope that your information that you have provided will be some assistance to our colleagues in Indonesia coffee sectors.
Yeah. Well, one small note. It is true that we have most of us have coffee machines at home, but we still prefer to drink coffee outside. We have coffee machines at home. Well, right now we are having a pandemic, so we are not going outside so often. So it's different. But usually you have a coffee machine at home because we love to drink coffee after meals, right? And especially if you have guests, it is very good to offer them a coffee. But at the end, we really, really love to go outside and have coffee in the street. So this is very important to have in mind.
Great. So once again, I thank you. And now we arrive to presentation from our sides, from Indonesia. We already listened from Ms. Claudia and Mr. Sergio regarding how we sit with the coffee industry in Portugal, the culture. And now we would like to welcome Mr. Irfan Helmi. He is an expert and he's a practitioner as well. Now he is the chairman of Sustainable Coffee Platform of Indonesia, SCOPI, and he also has a business. The company name is Anomaly Coffee, the one that he co-founded in 2007. But I'm sure we will hear more about this from himself. So I invite Mr. Irfan to deliver your presentation.
Thank you very much. First of all, it is an honor for me to be able to present all the contents while learning so much from other speakers. So I would like to begin my presentation. Just to make sure, are you able to see my presentation now? Hello. Are you able to see my presentation, Pak Riza?
Yes, Pak Irfan, we see it, no problem.
Okay. So it was lagging on my side just for a moment. Okay. So first of all, I would like to introduce. Yeah, there's a feedback. The same with Mr. Sergio, I guess. So there's an association called Sustainable Coffee Platform of Indonesia. There's where I'm using my presentation on behalf of Sustainable Coffee Platform of Indonesia. So it is very, very important now. Is really relevant for Indonesian coffee as a coffee producing country to work towards sustainable coffee. And first of all, why? The big question is why. So just for one small example, that International Coffee Organization, they made a London Declaration called that is strongly addressing on the urgency to work toward sustainability in terms of coffee producing countries. So if you have a look and you can search on the internet, and the main message is to promote dialogue among all stakeholders in the coffee value chain to ensure that all the farmers, the supply chain, the traders, the roasters are all equally benefiting from the trading. So we, Scopi, established in 2015, as the name tells you, that we work mainly on sustainable coffee. We promote curriculum. We have members of 45 members. We have 35 partners on local and also central governments. We have 8 donors, and we have touched 190 master trainers. We built the network of master trainers. Master trainers is a local champion of farmers, yeah, that are spreading from Aceh to Papua. It is from the west side to the east side of Indonesia, and all the master trainers have touched 23,000 plus farmers, their peer farmers, to learn about curriculum. How can we work towards sustainability in coffee? So this is the working area. If you see, we have 18 province of coffee producing area, and Scopi work 15 out of 18 coffee producing area. So if you can see, it is really a diverse origin. So you may expect different coffee characteristic. I will explain a bit later on. So I think it's important to explain a bit about Indonesia coffee outlook. So on the left side of the screen, the upper one is the top 5 coffee producing provinces in Indonesia. For Arabica, there is Aceh and North Sumatra, yeah, Arabica. But for Robusta, we have South Sumatra, Lampung, and also East Java. And for your information, we produce more than 70% Robusta and about 20% of Arabica nationwide. So from all of the producing area, we have 96% of smallholders farmers. So when we say smallholder farmers, is no more than maybe 1 to 2 hectares per family. So it is really literally a smallholders farmers. If you speak to Brazilian smallholders farmers, the numbers is really different. And on the right side, you can see the production. It's almost the same from 2008, and then 10 years later, 2018 is almost the same. While you see on the bottom, the domestic consumption, it's really, you can say, quite exponentially grow, yeah? So that's why the export are decreasing. Why? Because the local roasters are buying coffee from Indonesian coffee farmers. So maybe in terms of the pricing, Indonesian coffee price compared to Brazilian Arabica, Colombian Arabica, Vietnamese Robusta, it is not on par. It is not the same pricing. And you can say the imports really exponentially increased. What happened in Indonesian demand growth on almost every segment. There is a motorcycle selling coffees, there is a bicycle selling a sachet of coffee, there is a ready-to-drink coffee, but it's not coming from FMCG, it is coming from roasters or cafe that we are selling FMCG. And of course, a lot of cafes are coming into the business. So relevant facts regarding Indonesia, it is a domestic consumption, and maybe it is the expense of global supply in Indonesian coffee. And the second is, relevant fact is that diversity can only be sustained in trusted or traceable ecosystem. And the third is trust on quality, consistency, and accountability. What are the top challenges? Well, for now, we can say that building trust, it is really a challenge, how we can offer quality, consistency, and accountability. The first is toward to sustainability. It just moved next automatically, so sorry. So the first is towards sustainability. The second is how can we build community, and community means that how can maybe the embassy or the local player in Portugal can a community there can be connected to Indonesian community in terms of traders, small farmers cooperative, and so on and so forth. And the third one is the digitalization. So I want to highlight the how regarding the community. But first of all, why we should why is Indonesian coffee is relevant for the world? Yeah, because the first of all is we empower smallholders. Yeah, remember more than 96% are smallholders, and the land will be non-expensive in terms of the productivity per hectare is still 0.6 tons per hectare compared to Brazil 2 tons per hectare and Vietnam 4 tons per hectare. Brazil Arabica and Vietnam is in Robusta. And we work solidly toward sustainability. So it is really relevant to the future proofing, yeah, for our, not only for farmers, but for environment. The second is how to connect with non-formal and formal traders communities. It is mentioned before, how can community in Portugal connected to the coffee community in Indonesia? And we believe it is a marathon engagement. So how we can provide the sample of a variety of Indonesian coffee in Portugal. So it needs a lot of stamina. And the fourth is, I think for the market entry or to be able to expand Indonesian coffee in Portugal, we need an eye of a sniper. So it is really important, for example, to target, this is some of the cafes are picked by perfectdailygrind.com. For example, we targeted for Copenhagen Coffee Lab, Simply Coffee Roasters, Fabrica, Hello Christoph, and so on and so forth. So that we can introduce the variety of Indonesian coffee. So speaking of diversity of Indonesian coffee, It is stretched over 5,200 kilometers, up to 2 million smallholders. So you can see a lot of origins. Hence, it is the most diverse single origin coffee on earth, on a single country. So it's hundreds and hundreds of origins that you can taste. And from big mountains to main islands, it will result a different nutrition of soil. So the terroir distinction is there. So you will expect a different of characters from Aceh to North Sumatra, even when they are close in distance. But the taste, the flavor, the cupping score is really different. And you can imagine if you compare from Aceh to Bali, Flores to Papua. And it is built from my own experience in the company, that the magnet of selling coffee is minimum. We have to sell the flavors, we have to sell the sustainability, and we have to sell the story of origin. So the three pillars of selling coffee. So, and I believe that Indonesia have a good flavor, really diverse flavor, and we work toward solidly to sustainability actions. And also we have a lot of story of origins. That's all for my presentation, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, Pak Irfan, for the wonderful presentation. And it is encouraging to hear that Indonesia is the country with the most single origin coffee in the world, as you mentioned. So, especially if we are talking about single origin, we will talk about the Arabica, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's
mainly, yes, you're true, Pariza.
Very good information for all of us today, and I think this is also very precious information for Ms. Claudia Pimentel, that we hope that she can share in the stories with the colleagues in the association with regard to the potential of Indonesian coffee. Okay. So thank you very much for all the speakers, and now we are answering the Q&A session. We've got some of the questions that I would like to read from the chat, and maybe we can answer some of the questions. First, we have questions from Mr. Henry. So currently, from where Portugal got coffee, how much per year, and still need how much? I think this question to some extent has already been answered previously in the presentation. And also we're looking for another question. What are the types of green beans that are most used in Portugal, Arabica or Robusta? And then processing, is it natural, full wash, semi-wash, or others, grades 1, 2, or 3? Maybe from this question, we can hear from Ms. Claudia or Mr. Sergio with regard of the types of green beans and then the processing. The question is from Mr. Rahmat Hadi. So I give the opportunity. Can we unmute? Ms. Claudia? Yeah, I think allow participants. Can we click that? Hello. Yes, sorry. I think we have a slight technical issue. Can you hear me? Now? Okay. Yes, I'm using the other computer because our main host, we are accidentally disconnected from the Zoom. And yeah, we would like to continue. Can we unmute? Okay.
Yes. Can you hear me? No.
Yes, Miss Claudia.
Regarding that question you ask, we consume more Robusta than Arabica, although the Arabica consuming is increasing. The big companies that have commercial coffee and that have blends, they have more Robusta than Arabica because our espresso has mainly Robusta. But specialty coffees are importing more Arabica. So different channels use different coffees. Regarding the type of coffee, it depends on the channel you are exporting to, and the companies have their own preferences. I really don't know, and it depends. It has been changing a lot during these last years. So each company has their preferences. I really don't know if they prefer washed or natural. That specifications you have to relate it with each company. I hope I helped.
Yes, okay. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Claudia, for the explanation. And then another question is from Lan Jagat. Is there a market for Liberica coffee in Portugal? Liberica Borneo. So do you have any information about this, Ms. Claudia or Mr. Sergio?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. Can you repeat your question, please?
Yes.
I didn't.
Is there market for Liberica coffee in Portugal? So
Yeah, specialty coffee shops will be interesting in specific coffee. Yes, I think there is a market for that. You have to reach the each company and to present a coffee. I think we have market for that.
Thank you. And another question, will it be possible to collaborate to develop Indonesian coffee in Portugal? My principal companies are starting specialty Arabica import through Belgium. So maybe Mr. Sergio, I'll give this question to you. Maybe you can answer. Because his company already starting import through Belgium.
Hi. So, but it's important to Belgium, so it's already in the European market, right? So the most difficult hurdles were passed already. So it's a matter of establishing a connection with the Portuguese trader or a Portuguese company that is interested in buying the product, but the hardest part, which is entering the European market, is already done. So it's a matter of contacting. Yes.
Thank you. And then we have another question that from Marcel. The difficulty of export is to meet the certification requirement because in Indonesia, most coffee is produced by farmer. So I think he refers to the smallholders. and how to solve the difficulty because we are the coffee producer. So maybe anyone can answer these questions, or from experience, Mr. Irfan, maybe with regard to the domestic situation in Indonesia and how to get the certification there.
It is so true because of the smallholders are owning more than 96%. It is quite challenging for some small traders or some cooperative for farmers to gain the certifications. It need a bigger size of company to be able to consolidate, aggregate the farmers to acquire the certification. If I may use this opportunity also to ask to Mr. Sergio and Ms. Claudia, how do you see the trend about the certification? Is it the certification the trend is increasing or in stagnant or decreasing? Because I was in some different webinars with some traders in Holland. They say that in European, some countries are decreasing the trend of using certified coffee. But we need some comments on that one. Thank you.
It depends. If you are going to sell to big companies with image and with a few principles that are important, the certification is important. For smaller companies and for commercial coffee of smaller companies, certification is not important. Although every coffee that enters Portugal has to have a health certificate, which is issued by your authorities. It's not a certification of rainforest or trade, just commerce, but the health certification is indispensable. The other certification depends on the companies you are selling through.
Yes, I don't have much more to add. It's completely related to whom are you dealing with, and if the certificated product is essential for what they are offering to the market. So if you indeed, it's really what we are speaking is not health certification, of course, because that is mandatory. Yeah. Sustainable certification, organic or whatever, it really depends on the product that the company that you are dealing with as a producer is interested in putting into the market. So it's really, there is not a one and only answer, right? You know, you have different trends. If people are moving to more generic coffee, they will not ask for certificated coffee. But then if you want to create added value brands or, you know, a different offer, they will ask for certification. But it's volatile, that's clear, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Sergio.
One question is not resolved yet. What about the trend in the future? I mean, regarding even the bigger companies, the trend is still on the certificate coffee, or?
Organic is increasing, so probably companies would ask that certification. The sustainability certification is important for big companies too. So I think it depends on the company you are dealing with, but it's still important for most of the big companies. Yes.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Before we continue, I would like to inform the participants that we have put in the chat a link. It's an evaluation link, and also in addition, when you click the link, you enter the link, you will find also another link to the materials, to the presentation of the speakers. So there you go. And we also hope that you can fill the links for us to evaluate this program and also to organize it better in the future. Okay, so we can continue with, I have questions in the chat regarding the opportunity to sell roasted or finished products to Portugal, such as espresso. So imagine from Indonesia, we have finished products, espresso, and export to Portugal, because you noticed in Azerbaijan, they imported the finished product as well from outside their country. So what do you think, Ms. Claudia?
Portugal has its own taste, so finished products are not so easy to sell in Portugal. Of course, you can try and you can have an experience, but as we've seen before in the presentations, green coffee are the most easier way to reach the market. Finnish coffee, I think it's not so easy. The consumers are very used to the Portuguese coffee, the way of we treat the green coffees. It's very special and very unique. And the coffee shops usually also prefer the green coffee, so they treat it properly and in their special way. I don't think finished coffee is very success in here.
Okay, thank you. And another question is from Mr. Irfan, but if I may read it, what parameters mainly support the top 3 consumer origin in Portugal? Is it from the price? Is it from the taste, accessibility, or others? So what do you think? The characteristic that defines the popular coffee in Portugal?
I think taste is the most important, but as before, it depends on in the company we're trading with. It depends on the market the company is working with. So the channel, if it is special coffee or commercial coffee, you have a variety of things that it's important, but taste is one of the most important things. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mr. Sergio?
I was thinking, if I view it from the consumer side, well, we tend to drink coffee as an habit. So sometimes we just need a coffee. And you will have, unless you know that in some special coffee shop, the coffee is not that good, you will go into the first and then you will have a coffee. You won't return if it's not good. But the first thing is, as a consumer, is you have a strong habit of having coffee. You need a coffee in that moment, right? So you go and you have a coffee. Price is more or less in the street. Price is more or less the same in most coffee shops, unless it's the specialty coffee shop. So there you'll pay a little bit more. This is from the consumer side. From the big scale company or corporate side, I think it's just like Ms. Claudia said. It's price will be important, but the quality and taste of the coffee is the most important thing. And as we are speaking about coffee beans, the quality of the coffee beans will be very much important, of course.
Thank you, Mr. Sergio. And then we have also one message that can we send because he has this coffee shop in Indonesia, can we send the roasted coffee to the speakers? I think it's very generous offers, and of course we will be waiting for the coffee, so you can send it to the embassy, and then the embassy will be delightful to assist in this regard.
Thank you.
And another question: will the Indonesian embassy in Lisbon be able to facilitate or bridge the coffee producers to have our coffees exported to Portugal? Okay, of course, and this is one of our effort to connect between the two sides. And we at the embassy, we're always ready to receive some samples. Of course, if we are talking about coffee beans, we cannot just put it on the internet and then we show it the picture to the producers or to the importers here. Of course, we have some concrete products, and please you can send it to the embassy, and then we will try to deliver it to the relevant importers or the relevant roasters here for them to try and to make decisions from that. Okay, and then can we move to next question? Okay. Okay. So here's another question. It's quite interesting. Is there any way that a Philippine manufacturing company and farm like mine can work with Indonesia using the ASEAN blueprint, then go to Portugal? Thanks, and I'm loving the discussion. So maybe Pak Irfan, you have some insight about the questions. So from Philippine company.
Maybe it relates to the free trade, yeah, Fariza, because Philippines to Indonesian free trades agreement for the ASEAN. I think it's really possible. Why not? And we are excited to see the opportunities to fill in all the requirements to come to Portugal, and including to see the opportunity of who doing what and so on and so forth. I mean, it will be an interesting discussion to gain force, yeah, from the ASEAN to Portugal. You are muted, Fariza.
Yes, when we visited one of the company here in Portugal, and we learned that, of course, in the roasting process to make espresso, they mix between the Robusta, the majority, and the Arabica to make the coffee better in flavor and in the aroma. So I think in this regard, we can also mix coffee even from Philippines and Indonesia in the future. Why not? So this is quite interesting to explore.
Exactly.
Okay, and then we have another question. Boleh? Okay. Yeah, question for you, Pak Irfan. How do you do the training or give them information to small stakeholders in the issue of sustainable practice?
Okay, so it started in 2015. We worked with the Ministry of Agriculture to build a nationwide curriculum. So if we talk about sustainability, we have to know the good agriculture practices, that it is profitable for farmers, not harming the environment, and so on and so forth, right? So we built the curriculum, started in 2015. It finishes in 2006, the end of 2016. So it's 1 year long, the making of curriculum of the GAP. And therefore, we introduced in continuity after the curriculum has finished, we created what's so-called a TOT, train of trainers. So we built a network of master trainers in 15 provinces. We built 190 personnel of master trainers. It is a volunteer. It is unpaid by Scopi. Then we are making sure that they are working for their community. So the selection of master trainers is really important. So it is more like we create a network to disseminate the curriculum to their peer farmers. That is the suffice answer, maybe. I hope it's answered the question. So it is still continuing, yeah, Pariza. Even we are developing a new model now. So the model not always talk about Arabica and Robusta. Now we talk about how the farmers would resilient in facing climate change, how the agroforestry be more profitable for farmers in terms of managing their cash flows. So these are the more important topics in sustainable effort. Yeah.
I think it's expanding the discussion not only regarding to traditional farming and plantation, but now we move on to the sustainability and how the farmers can be more empowered to make the community better. Because I believe that if we are talking about the coffee, we're talking about the development of a village, because we don't have any coffee plantation in the cities. We have, of course, a coffee plantation in the villages. So in the case of more successful plantation, it means that we can also build our villages better. Thank you. And then another question, which department to go when we want to know about export-import regulation in Portugal? I think in the presentation of Mr. Sergio, you already touched about that information, right, Mr. Sergio?
But I'm sorry, because I could not understand exactly the question. It was?
The question is which department to go when we want to know about export-import regulation in Portugal. I think you have touched it.
Well, as I mentioned in my presentation, your best ally into coming to Europe, it would be to contact a trader, an importing company that is completely aware of all regulations that you need to comply with. Nevertheless, if you want to understand which type of regulations are in place and what you should do, I mentioned the website, excuse me, the European Union website, which is Market Access, where you can find all the information regarding regulations to fulfill if you are coming to Europe. So that's a website that is accessible from everywhere, and it has all the information regarding tariffs and requirements and regulations that you need to comply if you're coming to Europe.
And the ICEP is also an important company there.
Yes, in Portugal, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sergio, for the answer. And we have another question. Okay, but first, I noticed that some of the participants, they are leaving. But please don't forget to fill in the survey, and also in the survey you can find the link to the presentation from the speaker. One question is, hi, I'm a small startup coffee shop owner, and I would like to know, is the Baristas in Portugal interested in specialty coffee with a manual brewing technique? Are there a market for it, like it is here in Indonesia? Or is the market still demanding classically machine processed coffees? So I think this is quite a specific question with regard to the baristas. So maybe Ms.
But I can answer you. Brewing is increasing, and specialty coffee shops are interested in brewing. So you can talk to the baristas and to the coffee shop community, and yes, you have a market. But I have to remember that Portugal is a small country, and when we talk about market, we are talking about a very small market. It's not like Brazil or even Indonesia, which are big countries.
Thank you. We have one question. How about fines for agroforestry system? I'm not really familiar with this question. Maybe anyone can answer this question? Fines
No.
related with the coffee? Maybe if it's not, then we won't be able to answer that for the question. So I think we don't have any more questions from the participants at the moment. So is there anything you would like to add from the speakers, from Ms. Claudia, Mr. Sergio, and Mr. Irfan? Okay, I think we are good. Okay. I would like to remind once again to the participants, you can find the presentation from our speakers, from our wonderful speakers, by clicking the link to the evaluation. And also please kindly, if you can fill the evaluation form to assist us for our next future program. You can contact the embassy through our email. I put it in the chat already, lisabon.economy@kemlu.go.id. We will be very happy to help you connect. If you can send us the samples, it will be better so that we can forward it to the particular roasters or traders, importers in Portugal. And once again, I would like to thank the three speakers today for lending us your time and also, of course, the information. It's a very interesting to know more about the coffee industry in Portugal and also the development in Indonesia. Now we are importing more and more coffee to satisfy our domestic demand. So it's quite interesting to have, and maybe who knows, in the future also we can enjoy Portuguese roasted coffee in Indonesia with different tastes and with of course the characteristic that is roasted by the best Portuguese roasters in the ground. So once again, I thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you for joining, and have a wonderful day, and see you. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you very much. Bom dia.
Yeah.
Obrigado.
Thank you very much. And also, for some of you who asked about the recording, it's available on our YouTube. Just type KBRI Lisbon, and you will find later our recording for this event. The present is also in the link. So hopefully it will give us more and more knowledge, and who knows, we can get something concrete and tangible from today's event. Thank you very much.
Selamat pagi, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Selamat pagi. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, thank you.
Bye-bye.